There we go. Hello, everybody, and welcome to our last session of our Earth Month webinar series. This has been a really fantastic opportunity to kind of share with you guys some different sustainability topics, and we are really excited for this last one. So today we are focusing on electronics reuse and recycling, and then we're going to be talking about mattress recycling as well. Two really big topics, something that everybody touches and a lot of people don't necessarily know what to do with. So with that, I am going to kick it off to Matt. Feel free to introduce yourself and rock on.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Vicky. And so today we're going to kind of do an overview of just the broad topics of what's included in electronics, reuse, recycling, and some of the other fields that kind of fall under that. So I work for a business called Electronics Value Recovery. We're based out of a 50,000 square foot secure facility in Baltimore, Maryland. We have a team of 50 trained professionals working to destroy data, reuse electronics, and recycle end of electronics, manage universal waste. We are certified, amongst other things, to the R2 standard, which is one of the industry standards that make sure we adhere to best practices. And so a little bit about me. I have been in the electronic recycling business for nearly 20 years. I started when I was still an undergraduate at University of Maryland College Park, go Terps, and ended up working for one of the largest companies as a member of the executive management team for almost a decade before starting my own business back here in Maryland. And so I've worked on numerous trade association boards. I've helped write standards and specifications for the industry and been involved in the board of directors for our industry trade group. So a little bit of key terminology kind of before we get started. When you're hearing electronics recycling, it's kind of a vast world of several different disciplines that kind of come together from the operator recycler's perspective. So at the highest level, some of these terms are also kind of interchangeable. So when I mentioned something about like being an electronic reuse or doing something like that, it does all fall under this broader umbrella of IT asset disposition and electronics recycling. So in its barest form, electronic recycling is taking used, end of life, or surplus and then trying to reuse them. And if they are not new enough of a high enough quality to be reused, then it's about the generation of commodity grade scrap materials and the proper management of the materials that are found inside of the electronics. IT asset disposition is a flavor of electronics recycling for large organizations and businesses. So it's not just, hey, here's my truck, come pick up our gear. Hopefully I can get a report or something like that. It's detailed. It includes things like asset management, reports that include serialization or other things, so a vendor can know what assets they still have, what assets they've gotten rid of. It's data destruction that follows all of that industry's or organization's policies and procedures. It's attempting to reuse, whether it's harvesting licenses, actually reusing the actual hardware devices themselves, things like managing old locks, because a lot of these newer technologies are locked once you first buy them by the OEM, and that really makes it difficult to reuse devices if you're not working in a sort of a programmatic way with the vendors who take your technology. And it's the end of life recycling and universal waste management. So electronic reuse is giving a device another life cycle by essentially bringing it in, making sure that all customer data is destroyed, no trace of who originally had that device, testing it to make sure that it fully functions. We may do some upgrading, i.e., so if maybe we buy a laptop and the battery is a little dated, we might replace that battery, or we might add a bigger hard drive or more RAM, because even though the core technology is a little bit older, once you kind of soup it up with some of these other things, it can still be a pretty competitive device. We're going to talk a little bit later about some of the benefits of electronics reuse. So electronics scrap is the fastest growing segment of the waste stream, and the fastest growing of electronic scrap is batteries. This is something that pretty much every organization is going to be touching. And over time, the chemistries and the things inside of the batteries have evolved into a lot of lithium ions and a lot of kind of things that have a little bit more hazards and characteristics that need to be properly managed and have some more concerns than they did. And finally is circular economy. It's a concept of both kind of when directly reusing devices, how those other light kind of spin and then create further amortization of the resources it took to devices. But it's also a concept of kind of taking the resources that we've already harvested and then putting them into recovery channels where they can into that commodity grade scrap so they can be the critical materials and we need to continue to power our economy forward. So why does electronic recycling matter? There's kind of a couple of different points that we're going to talk about, but I think the first and most important is data security. We live in a society, we live in a world where our data is everywhere. My refrigerator literally connects to the internet and can tell me whether or not I need to replace the water filter or not. And so we're dealing with all of these different types of technologies that have both our information and our data in our personal and in our work lives. So as an electronic recycling company, one of the most important things that we do is we're staying on what are the latest trends and where is all of this data and in how do we properly manage it. 15, 20 years ago, it was hard drives and tapes, and that was pretty much the exclusive places that you'd be able to find this information. Now we're dealing with things like appliances, wearable devices, cars even basically have computers in them. And all of these devices have information and data. And so as a recycler, we offer both opportunities to reuse old data containing devices. So we have forensic grade data destruction processes that comply to the NIST 800-88 standard that also involve validating when we wipe an old device that there is no data remaining on it. But we also offer security in the form of shredding on-site or off-site. And so a lot of this kind of depends on a company or organization's individual security standards and kind of how they've postured to be able to handle their data destruction. But a proper electronic recycler should be audited and have checks and balances to ensure that data destruction is, basically a core premise of all of our recycling processes. For different regulations, things like HIPAA, FACTA, Sarbanes-Oxley, that companies, organizations need to properly manage their data and be able to account for what happened to their devices, what happened to hard drives, ideally have serial numbers and certificate of destruction records, because this data is so valuable. It's literally people's entire lives is now stored in this technology. So electronic recycling, of course, has really positive environmental impacts. One of the things I really like to say is scrap is not waste. You'll notice that I really don't call the material that we handle e-waste because this is scrap material. This is items that can be processed and then create new materials that can be reintroduced to the supply chain. So if we think about big trends like electrification, i.e. transition from internal combustion engine vehicles to electric vehicles and some of the other things that like solar and battery storage bring to the grid, we're going to need a tremendous amount more of materials like copper and lithium. And one great place to be able to get this is instead of landfilling these devices, harnessing them through the recycling supply chain. So one of my favorite recycled materials is actually aluminum. It's infinitely recyclable, and producing a pound of recycled aluminum only uses 5% of the energy that a pound of new recycled aluminum does. And there is so little loss in that recycling process that that can happen over and over and over again. But still, if you look at EPA statistics, around 50% of the aluminum generated in the United States goes into a landfill every year, which is 50 billion worth of materials. And if you think about the creation of a single computer, it can be up to 1.8 tons of raw material in terms of water, metals, and fossil fuels. And so by harnessing and recapturing that material, being able to reintroduce it as critical materials into the industrial supply chain, that's all positives and is less material that now needs to be mined out of the earth at a much bigger environmental impact. So up to 60% of toxic and heavy metals in landfills come from electronics. And electronics only represent like a low single-digit percentage of the waste that's handled in that stream. So especially older electronics have items like lead, mercury, beryllium, and cadmium. These are highly regulated by the government. They're actually all encompassed in something called the RCRA 8. You might have heard of the concept of Superfund when you have these really hazardous environmental sites that weren't properly managed. If you are dealing with the items in the RCRA 8, that's when Superfund liability comes into play. So some of these are some of the most toxic and hazardous substances that humankind has been able to make. It's what powers these amazing electronics. But you really need to make sure that you're dealing inside of proper environmental regimens to make sure that there is no damage to the environment or physical health from these devices. And so one of the things as a certified recycler, we track our recycling supply chain to final disposition. So until that circuit board is transformed into a copper sort of item, we can track each facility that it would go through. And in doing that, we know that, we are not adding to the risk of toxic pollution. And some of these informal e-scrap recycling spots who have lower cost of labor and not the kind of worker health and safety regimens that certified recyclers would deal with can be some of the most toxic places on earth. So reuse and life cycle extension is an amazing factor in electronic recycling. The EPA WARM data classifies hundreds of different types of materials and looks at the environmental impact in terms of carbon if a ton of that material is landfilled, recycled, or reused. And by recycling a ton of old electronics, you divert roughly 2 tons of carbon. But by reusing those same electronics, it's 10x bigger. It's 20 tons of carbon savings per ton of reuse. And a lot of this comes from the life cycle management of a device. If you replace your computer every 4 or 5 years, 90% of the environmental impact went into the manufacturing of that device. So if that computer was going to, be used for 4 years and then not be properly managed and not be reused, or maybe it was locked and not properly unlocked, so it couldn't then be refurbished, that then ends the life cycle of that device. And so all of the 90% of environmental impact that came during the manufacturing phase is spread only over 4 years. But if you refurbish that device and maybe put it on another 4-year life cycle, you've basically cut in half the environmental impact from that manufacturing by amortizing it over a further amount of time. Also, reuse is great because it helps bridge the digital divide, i.e. the internet is an amazing tool for education, self-empowerment. Refurbished computers can cost substantially less than new technology. And so by reusing these devices, we can create low-cost options for people to be able to use technology and access the internet. So last but not least is battery recycling. As I'm sure we all know, there's a tremendous proliferation of lithium-ion batteries. As a recycler, we think about these in terms of small, medium, and large format battery. So a small format battery is something like one of the old alkalines, a cell phone battery, a laptop battery. A medium format battery could go in something like an electric scooter. And a large format battery is something that's grid scale or in a bus or an electric vehicle or something like that. And the bigger the battery, especially when they're lithium ion, the more the punch, right? And so we are actively dealing with a tremendous proliferation of these batteries. What we're seeing the most of right now is small format batteries. And a lot of these large format batteries, what they really are is just like 2,000 small format batteries, kind of all mushed or put together in series and in parallel to be able to add a bigger punch. And so it's, while what we have
Oh no, Matt.
transition happens, we are going to see the quantity of large format batteries increase tremendously as well. And so this is obviously the fastest growing segment inside of the electronic scrap stream, excuse me. And the IEA expects the demand for lithium to grow by over 40 times in 2040. So the bigger the battery, the more the safety risks. And some of these bigger batteries, oh, sorry, I cut out the ICE transition. The ICE transition is internal combustion engine. So as we transition from using gas-powered vehicles to more electric vehicles, hybrids, or non-traditional fuel cells is encompassed in the ICE transition. And so the other factor that we're seeing inside of battery recycling is that for the longest time, the batteries we would get in the recycled material stream were what we would call nickel metal cobalt. So these are really valuable resources that we were able to harness in the recycling process that actually made some of these batteries a positive value. What we've seen during COVID is the vast majority, up to 90% of the batteries being manufactured now are lithium ion phosphate, lithium ion ferrous, or these other chemistries that don't have the valuable components inside, like nickel, metal, or cobalt. And so they're much more expensive to recycle and properly manage, and harder to deal with than kind of any other batteries that we've seen in the past. So this is something that pretty much all electronic recyclers are really focused on right now. This is kind of the biggest issue of the day in trying to make convenient, safe collection accessible to consumers and businesses of all sizes. And so I just want to touch on the important have adhered to either the R2 or the E-Steward standard. Both of them are great. I'm not starting a flame war trying to pick any particular one, but these sorts of things have third parties come in and make sure that the businesses operate to best in class standards. So they'll come and look at hundreds of attributes of your business and make sure that you're keeping your workers safe, you're working with these materials in an environmentally friendly way. And so there are lots of different great electronic recycling companies out there, but it's really important. And I know in state of Maryland, the regulations say you should be working with certified recyclers. So R2 and E-Steward are the two kind of industry focused ones. ISO 9001 is quality related to like the outputs of either refurbished or recycling process. ISO 14001 tracks environmental outputs. That's the ability of a business to kind of know where any hazardous items they've have gone through that recycling chain. And ISO 45001 is worker health and safety to ensure that you meet or exceed Maryland and federal OSHA standards. And so it's really great when evaluating any sort of potential recycler to make sure it's happening in that certified recycling chain, So you're not contributing by accident to that illegal, unofficial kind of recycling channels without the worker health and safety with some of these hazardous items we previously talked about. So I really appreciate the time. I'm either welcome to take any questions if folks have them, or we can kind of wait until Kevin is done his thing and use any time we have remaining as well.
Yep, we're going to jump to Kevin and then we'll do all questions at the end so that way it's nice and easy. Thank you, Matt. Now we're going to test Kevin's technology ability. I like it. We're excited.
Yeah, we'll see. Right.
Huge shout out to both of you guys for participating in this. There's so much valuable information between the two of you. We had the pleasure of touring both facilities, both, Matt's EVR facility and Kevin's Turbo Hall facility. And it was very eye-opening seeing it all, in person and in action. There we go.
Yeah, let's see here.
And then you can close. Well, you don't want to close out of that.
Right. Show my screen.
It's weird seeing myself.
So I wonder if I can start actually.
Try clicking the little presentation. Yep. Try clicking that.
Yeah, let me see if I can do that.
There you go. Perfect.
Well, I lost all of you guys, but that's okay. You can hear me and see me.
Sure can.
Okay, and you can see the slideshow. Okay.
Yep, you're good to go.
So we're good to go. So this is going to be Mattress Recycling 101. We're going to just cover the basics of mattress and box spring deconstruction, processing, and component recycling. And there will be at least one person on this call that will learn nothing at all. And that is Matt Young, because I don't think he'll mind me saying that he was at one time the largest mattress recycler in the nation. So he'll probably get some lunch or something during this time. But anyway, so first of all, introductions. I'm Kevin Daly. I'm president of and founder of Turbo Hall. We are in the waste management industry. I graduated from University of Maryland School of Business a long time ago now with a degree in logistics and transportation, and started my business right out of the University of Maryland. So I have 30 plus years in waste management, and through that experience in our particular niche in waste management, which is bulk item collection, disposal, recycling, I started to have a keen interest in mattresses because we would pick up hundreds of them a day through our collection efforts. And about 20 plus years ago, I thought, man, there's got to be a better way to deal with mattresses besides just putting them in the ground or burning them up in incinerators. So that led me on a long journey, and we stood up a full-fledged mattress recycling operation about 5 years ago, expanded it about 3 years ago into a new facility in Baltimore, and currently it's the largest mattress recycling facility in the mid-Atlantic. All right. So why recycle mattresses? So there's a lot of reasons why we want to recycle mattresses. They are an extremely problematic product from a waste management standpoint. Over 50,000 units are discarded in the US each day. 50,000 units. And just in Maryland alone, the number of mattresses that get disposed of in Maryland could fill the Washington Commanders Stadium each year. So a tremendous amount of waste being generated from mattresses, and it's a extremely bulky and difficult to handle product. It's difficult to handle because I bet every single one of you, if you think about it within the last month, have seen a mattress on the side of the road or in the woods or someplace it shouldn't be. There is a tremendous illegal dumping problem for mattresses, and that leads to a tremendous cost to municipalities and state, other organizations for cleaning up the illegal dumping that takes place. In terms of waste management, some of the issues that they present are, because they are so bulky, they don't compress well, the transfer costs, the transportation costs of mattresses is very high. You can load an entire tractor trailer full of mattresses and only get a few tons in that tractor trailer. Whereas with normal waste, that same tractor trailer, that same volume of material would compact to a density that would allow you 22 tons of material. So very costly on collection and transfer. In terms of putting them in their final resting place, which is typically landfills, they're incredibly bulky and non-compactable because of the materials they're composed of that have such high memory. So you have springs and you have foam, and both of those kind of materials that makes up the vast majority of a mattress have what's called high memory, meaning they want to return to the form they were in after you put pressure on them. And that means that when you take these units and put them in a landfill, as this picture here illustrates, you can bury them and they still within the fill want to expand to their original volume, and that leads to a lot of precious landfill space being taken up by these mattresses. In the industry, it's called an air utilization factor. They have a very high air utilization factor. So that gets very expensive. One of the other issues that mattresses have presented that has really begun to change the industry, or in terms of the large waste management companies that run the landfills, is they are extremely motivated to get mattresses out of their waste stream, because these mattresses cause tremendous damage to the very expensive heavy equipment that they use to compact the waste into the fill, as well as collection vehicles that come to the fill. And they cause this damage by wrapping around in a very insidious manner the axles and into the wheel hubs of any equipment that rolls over them. I'm embarrassed to say, but it is illustrative of what we're talking about. One of our own trucks ran over a mattress not too long ago, and it wrapped around the axle of our truck, and it resulted in thousands of dollars in damages, ironically, to a mattress hauling truck in the landfill. So these costs that are absorbed, taken by these large waste management companies at the fills, it is motivated these companies to start to put in place high surcharges on mattresses being brought to their facilities. In fact, there is one landfill in Virginia run by Republic Services that charges $250 per mattress if you were to take them a mattress there. That's an extreme, but I can tell you that in Maryland, there are less than the number of facilities I can count on one hand that don't charge some sort of surcharge for a mattress. And on average, they range in, the $30 to $40 range. So quite expensive. And this is for commercial haulers. Many facilities county-run, city-run facilities have an option for homeowners that is less expensive or at no cost. And we run many of those residential recycling collection opportunities for these municipalities. But nonetheless, very expensive to get rid of them because of the inherent costs in handling them. Additional issues they cause when they get buried in landfills, they create pockets because of their expansion, right? Their memory. They create pockets in there that creates space for landfill gas to get trapped, and that disrupts the flow and recovery of the landfill gas. It disrupts the leachate management at the fill because of the highly absorbent foams and also the pockets that are formed. Leachate is the nasty stuff. It's basically the landfill water, landfill gunk that's created that they have to manage, of course, and that creates issues with that. Mattresses do. Oh, all right. They also destabilize the landfill edge. So because they don't compact, landfills are building and compacting and trying to, build the stabilized surface. And when mattresses get on the edge of the landfill, it can cause destabilization and collapses, and also venting of gas and leachate there. And mattresses are made of non-biodegradable synthetic materials, so they're going to stay in that landfill, and they're going to not break down most of the material for many years. Some of the material hundreds of years, and they also contain flame retardant chemicals, other chemicals in them that can leach into the landfill soil and create contaminants and issues with the water table. So a lot of problems with mattresses, and that's why there's been a big push over the last number of years, about last decade especially, to get these out of the waste stream. So what's the environmental benefit? So recently, the Mattress Recycling Council that runs most all of the statewide programs that are in place now, they did an analysis of mattress recycling, and their analysis showed that for every mattress that's recycled, it saves 500 gallons of water and conserves enough power to power a house for 3 days, and reduces greenhouse gas emissions equivalent to driving 60 fewer miles. So that is a significant environmental impact. And when you think about the amount of mattresses that are being diverted, can be diverted, it absolutely is worth the cost, and it has an excellent environmental benefit. Okay, so how's it done? How do you take these big, nasty, oftentimes heavily soiled mattresses and recycle them? So the one thing to remember is that mattresses are not a container. They're not a commodity. They are a product. And similar to electronics, that means they're composed of many different types of materials. And also similar to electronics, they're composed of many types of materials that the manufacturer wants to stay together, to have durability, and to last. So that's great if it's a quality made product for the consumer while they're using it, but it does pose many issues when it comes to waste management and the recycling of it, because all of these materials must be separated in order to be recycled. So there's two basic methods for the recycling of mattresses. One is manual deconstruction, and the other is shredding. And oftentimes there'll be a hybrid of these for certain mattresses or certain types of materials, but these are basically the two methods. And for purposes of this presentation, I'm going to focus on manual deconstruction because it tends to have the greatest recovery rate of materials, and it's the most accessible for those municipalities, jurisdictions that are looking to set up mattress recycling. So the first process is a unit comes in, it's placed on a work table, a recycling technician. The first step is to cut open the mattress all along the side, all along the outside. In this case, this technician is using a special razor knife to do that. At times, air actuated or electric tools are employed, but many technicians prefer just a simple razor knife to kind of fillet all around the side of the mattress, and then the mattress is splayed open at the edges to reveal the material layers and fasteners. It's at this point that the technician is going to evaluate what kind of mattress that he's dealing with, what kind of material is in there, what tools he may need to employ, other hand tools to get the mattress apart. Because that is the next step, is deconstruction. And this is where the individual layers of the mattress are manually pulled apart and separated from fasteners and or glue that's been applied to hold it together. There's a particular horrible fastener that's used in mattress manufacturing called hog rings. And they're these very thick, round kind of staples or rings that are pressed around the mattress material and bind it to the outer, the border wire of traditional inner springs. Very difficult to get apart manually. In this case, we're showing a nice picture of our man here just pulling a piece of foam off. That's a little misleading. That makes it look very easy. It's actually incredibly hard work and manual labor to pull these mattresses apart, many of them. Especially the emerging prominence of glue is really starting to pose an issue. These adhesives, incredibly tough and make it very difficult to get foam disconnected from the cores, the spring cores, and other materials. But nonetheless, individual layers are pulled apart. The next step is separation and classification. So the materials are pulled apart, and then the various materials are separated by type and by composition and also condition. Here you have examples of more of the commonly recyclable materials that we get in mattresses. So you have some prime foam, some foam pieces up here. In the top left, you've got some shoddy material to the right, which is actually a recycled product in and of itself, utilizing post-consumer textiles to make a thin, semi-rigid barrier that lays on top of springs and protects the foam from the springs. You've got in the lower left wood waste, untreated clean wood waste from box springs and foundations. In the center bottom here, we've got the toppers or quilted toppers for mattresses. These are recyclable due to the polyurethane foam content within them. So they're desired by the same people that recycle the clean foam, prime foam. And then, of course, you have springs here in the lower right. High carbide, high tensile strength, high carbon content, high tensile strength steel springs. Very difficult to manage. And from a recycling and scrap standpoint, you may think that you can just take these steel, like most people know that scrap metal, is of value and recyclable, but because mattress recycling is kind of funny and difficult in all ways, even the steel, we still have to process this either by shredding or by special balers to get it so that scrap metal buyers will accept it and pay money for it. In its current condition, they won't even, like this, they won't even accept it currently. Okay, so after everything's separated and classified, then it is baled and prepared for shipping. So here are some examples of bales. You have bales of the toppers, and you can see the balers will compress them into these small bales of toppers, but they weigh almost 1,000 pounds. You see a prime foam bale to the right weighing over, well over 1,000 pounds. And we get this kind of density through the use of specialized balers for foam or high memory product like this, so that we can ship the material to specialty recyclers with some degree of efficiency. And then you have this funny looking cube at the bottom, and this is produced by a very special piece of equipment, alternately called a press baler or automatic metal baler or a 3-gram baler, but it exerts, I believe it is 250 tons of pressure in 3 different directions on mattress springs, and it basically takes all the memory out of the springs so that it can stay in this 2 foot by 2 foot or 2 foot cube bale or bundle that then can get shipped directly to scrap metal mills. So this is what we have to do to prepare them for shipping after recycling. And then what happens after they go to these special recyclers? What are they doing with them? Well, they're turned into new products. I'm sure all are familiar with carpet pad. It's a close-up view of one. You might have noticed all the little flecks in it and pieces in carpet pad. That's because carpet pad is made of recovered material, recycled material. And some of that is from mattress recycling operations. So the foam and toppers go to these rebonding companies, and they shred it all up, process it, heat it all up, add adhesive, and they turn it into carpet pad they turn it into rebond for carpet pad, furniture manufacturing, and other applications. Some of it, even in other countries, is reintroduced and used in mattress manufacturing, which I'm a fan of, a proponent of doing that here in the States. But as of yet, we haven't had that adoption in new mattress manufacturing. Springs, the steel, rebar is one of the many products that the type of steel can be used to make. And then the clean wood waste, as an example, can be shredded up, cleaned, and used as animal bedding, as well as fuel for cement kilns and other applications. Hope you enjoy the little piggies here in the lower right. I like that picture. All right, so that's the basics of recycling of mattresses and how it's done. And I appreciate everyone's interest, and I appreciate your commitment to a circular economy and a more sustainable future. There's a lot more to say about mattress recycling. I'm very bullish on reuse of mattress components and remanufacturing of mattresses. And there's great strides being made in that area, which is a far better use of material than processing it and baling it and shipping it and breaking it down and then turning it into new products. Reuse is, as Matt talked about as well, much higher in that diversion circularity hierarchy. So, but that'll be for another presentation. Thank you.
That was absolutely fantastic. All right, Kevin, it looks like you have the first question in the chat. Seeing myself on the screen is very confusing. So, question in the chat, do you also recycle furniture? Is it easier to recycle the new foam mattresses? And how much does it cost on average to recycle a single mattress?
All right. So 3 questions. So first one, Vicky, was furniture. Do we recycle furniture? Short answer, no, not really. Furniture is extremely difficult to recycle for a number of reasons. One, they don't make it like they used to, meaning a lot of it is just shot together particle board, engineered materials, and you can't do anything with those except burn them up. And then you have a variety of textiles there that don't, have markets and are, mixed together. But we do, when we're able to lay our hands on sofa cushions and other cushions, we will take those and recycle the polyurethane foam blocks from them. So we do what we can. We also at our facility have the ability to take office systems, office furniture, as well as some residential furniture. And we have equipment that's able to crush them up, break them down, and extract the metals, ferrous and non-ferrous metals that's contained in there. Even if it's the legs of something or the mechanism of an office chair, we'll get that all out and recycle it, and and can reclaim that at least.
Sweet.
And
then the second question for that was, is it easier to recycle the newer foam mattresses?
So that's a trick question. Yes, easier to break down, okay, because there's not as much to take apart. Unfortunately, a lot of those foam mattresses are like hybrid exotic foams and stuff. And so they're all glued together, and not all foam's the same, just like not all metal's the same. And they often will even include, other elements like little beads, cooling beads and stuff and things. So there's that issue, kind of foam contaminating foam. The other issue is that because everyone is so enamored with laminate flooring right now, like when you redo your basement, nobody's putting carpet down anymore. They're putting laminate flooring. It looks like wood, but it cleans up easier and everything. Everybody loves that. Well, without carpet, there's no carpet pad. You don't need carpet pad. And so those trends have collapsed the demand for carpet pad. And then that in turn has collapsed the demand in the market for foam. At the same time, mind you, that we're having a huge increase in foam-only mattresses, which increases the supply as the demand is diminishing. And at the same time, where many more states are coming online with mattress recycling, which is then pulling out more foam from the waste stream, adding further to the supply, and increasing the nexus between that supply and demand, and lowering the price we get. So
this feels like your formal announcement that you are anti-laminate flooring. That's what I take from that.
Yes. Yeah, I am actually, for a variety of reasons, but we won't get into that. And then the third question was,
how much does it cost on average to recycle a single mattress?
Okay, so I'll take that just from the standpoint of when it hits the facility. There's a lot of costs in collection and transportation, but when it hits the facility, you will find costs depending on your market, depending on the type of mattress, depending on the condition of the mattress. You'll find costs anywhere from $12 to $30 a mattress a unit for recycling. Yeah,
that's not bad. I was expecting more.
I can charge you more if you would like. I'm happy to do.
And then another question, please comment on the logistics of having a person come out to pick up a mattress.
So there's a lot of ways that can be handled, and like we offer specialized collection units depending on the siding of your facility and the size of your facility. Those range anything from a 53-foot dry van, trailer, like tractor trailer, that can be spotted on site and allow the customer to load it over time. We also have converted sea containers, shipping containers that we put a roll-off platform on, so we can drop these enclosed containers at sites that have more of a limited footprint, limited space. And then again, they're able to be loaded over time and just switched out as they're full. We also can put static shipping containers in place. So we do that for a number of clients. We can put 40 footers, we can gang up multiple 40 footers, gang up multiple 20 footers. And then those are serviced by a tractor trailer that comes out and a crew that accompanies it and empties those. Or they're serviced by a box truck that comes out depending on the volume and again, picks them out of there for the client and loads them. And then all of those transportation platforms can be used for live loads. For instance, you might have your own storage room or your own, situation or whatever, loading dock, and we can run a trailer out there, run a box truck out there, or a container, and then you can load it or we can load it and then just take off with it. So that's typically how collection takes place.
Awesome. So question for both of you with that collection mindset. If I were to go through and get rid of my mattress and clean out all of the electronics that I've got sitting in a corner, Matt, don't judge me. What's the best way for me to do that, to get that to somebody to take care of it appropriately, instead of me just throwing it out and telling Baltimore County, I don't know, figure it out?
Matt, go ahead. I'm a little exhausted.
Matt, I think you're muted. We can't hear you. It doesn't show? No. Matt ran away.
Okay, I'll jump in then in the interest of time. So we typically, collect, but there's an extra cost for collection. But for us, you're more than welcome to, arrange a drop off for that if you're able. It's just that mattresses, again, as described in the presentation, very difficult to handle, manage, transport. So it's best to try to appeal to your local jurisdiction and see if they have a current system set up. It's going to be a system whereby you're going to still have to deliver it to them. But I can tell you that we do for many municipalities, cities in Maryland, we have the turnkey programs set up for them. So there is an option there. I can tell you, sadly, if you put your mattress out at the curb for your bulk trash collection that's provided, that mattress is not going to be recycled. Even if they say, oh yeah, we recycle mattresses, and it's not happening, folks. So it needs to be picked up by us, or you need to deliver it to us, or you need to deliver it to a established program at your jurisdiction where you live.
Good to know. I was wondering about the bulk pickup, so I'm glad you clarified that. Matt, are you officially back? Now he looks.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, we can hear you.
Awesome. So, I think for recycling electronics, so can you guys hear me now? Or looks like this. Yeah.
Almost, sort of. Matt has the worst internet sometimes.
So
I think we may have lost you. Oh, wait.
All right.
I think you're moving again.
Can you guys hear me?
There you go.
Perfect. As an individual, how you would want to recycle electronics. A lot of the different counties at their municipal landfills, sites like that, do have free collection programs. And a lot also of some of the national retailers like Best Buy and Staples can take different items. If you're kind of more of an enterprise or a business, I would be trying to work directly with some sort of an ITAD company who can then provide you the reporting that you should be getting.
Awesome. I'm glad to hear that at least some counties offer some support in these difficult to recycle products. Kevin, question for you. How do we find or search for locations with mattress programs that may exist locally?
Well, you found it.
I was gonna say, do we just Google mattress recycling and hope that
No, it's what I'm saying is there's
where are you at?
Yeah, in this area right now, if you want a true mattress recycling option, we're the only one that I'm aware of that can accommodate you. I think there's somebody I've heard has stood one up, but is, more commercial or even like government focused. So I don't know that you'd really have luck there. You need to be careful about, like, if you go to like any directory, a state directory that's produced or something, you'll find people under mattress recycling, or search the internet and they'll be like, we recycle mattresses. And those are just junk haulers that are getting you on keyword search. And so you'll hire them for the transportation. But honestly, there's no guarantee at all they're getting recycled, because I can tell you they're not hauling them to us. They're usually trying to find, homes for them, at other disposal facilities, incinerators or whatever. So, but if you do check with your, local jurisdiction, and if they have them, and just ask them, do you actually have a mattress recycling operation set up, or collection, and they say, yeah, we do, and you go there and there's a special place for residents and there's a special collection container, you're putting your mattress in there, you have a good chance that's getting to us, or at least a renovator.
Awesome. Okay, so in the interest of time, I'm going to give my last spiel, turn off the recording, but I'll hang out here because I've got a little bit of time in case anybody has any other questions. So first, thank you, Kevin and Matt. You guys have a wealth of information that I just absolutely love listening to you guys talk. It seems like such a really niche topic, but I just love learning about it. So thank you guys for your time and all of that. For anybody that has enjoyed our Earth Day webinar series, we are having an in-person event. I am pretty sure EVR is coming out. So if you guys want to talk electronics recycling, you can come talk to Matt's counterpart, who is also named Matt. So it's nice and easy to remember. So that is always a good opportunity. So that event is next Wednesday in person at State Center, April 29th. We'll be there from 11 to 1. Come check out the electric vehicles in the state fleet. You can ride and drive one. I cannot promise you can drive one. I don't know what the qualifications are, but I can promise you can at least ride in one. And just thank you guys for your participation. I will be sending out recordings, slide decks, and a feedback survey, hopefully by the end of this week. So I'm going to formally turn off the recording, and then any questions, you guys are welcome